morning. Welcome to Mirador Television. My name is Max Hurd. Today I'm here with Stuart Dolby. Good morning.
Good morning.
So today we're going to be looking through the headlines of all the front pages of all the major newspapers, and then we'll be looking at the back pages of the Daily Mail and the Financial Times in a little bit. But the front pages today of all the newspapers are: did you know it was hot yesterday? Did you hear it was hot yesterday? It was quite warm. So from the Independent, what does that word say? Something like box. UK ignites at record 40.3 degrees Celsius. Now that is pretty hot. I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and you have though. You've been in heat like this before in other countries.
Well, yes, but well protected. I went to the hottest place in the world, but way back in the day, 20 years ago.
Do you remember what temperature it would have been?
It was 47, I think.
47.
And this was on a place called Goat Island, which is in the Hormuz Straits, which divides Oman on the one side and Iran on the other. And this heat there was just unbelievable, but you had to dash in tide with all the scientists. But when you actually stepped outside, as if you can fry immediately. But I'm very pale skinned, you see, so I really can't go out in the heat like that because I just burn up. It doesn't work for me.
Well, so
I'm not interested in suntans particularly.
No?
No.
You said you don't like going to the beach. What was that about?
Well, point two, I'm very crowd averse anyway. I don't like crowds. I don't go amongst crowds because I think it stems from when I was the FT correspondent in South Africa. And you had to face the South African mob. And boy, was it terrifying them coming at you. Really coming at you. I thought, oh my God. I don't think I could even go to a football match or a rugby match now. I just don't like crowds.
What was it that happened? What, they were just running at you, and
they were just running at you, like a mad bunch of guys with machetes. They didn't have those, of course.
Oh.
But they did terrible things to people. They had this necklace thing. They put tires around people's necks and set them on fire. Terrible.
Lovely bunch of people.
Exactly, yeah.
My stepmom's from South Africa, and their family moved to England because South Africa is a shithole, and they got held at gunpoint as a family and had their car stolen. And then so they had a really nice house. They had like a mansion, but then they came here to England and ended up in a council estate because of prices.
What, just to get the benefits?
No, her parents were originally from Britain. That's why they have it. So, but she was born over there.
Well, ever since Mandela died, really, the place is hopelessly corrupt, and the racism still goes on, and the white Afrikaners are still absolute. I don't know. When I write, I was bummed out of South Africa because when I wrote a paragraph saying, going into the Parliament here, looking at the front bench, it's almost like looking at the Nuremberg trials. All those Afrikaners look like people in the Nuremberg trials. They didn't like that, and I was bloody shoved out of the country pretty damn quick. That's the least they could have helped me, I suppose. But God, they were awful people, those Afrikaners. They were really awful. They were double Dutch, weren't they? They spoke Dutch, and they come from Holland originally, and they were really bigoted and terrible and awful.
Yeah. Did you ever meet the Boer people?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, the Afrikaners.
Oh, that's them.
Boer is the right word for them. They're very boring.
Because I know someone who had met them before, and she said that even though she was British, they really still didn't like her just for being from England.
Well, no, the white English were slightly, but didn't. The Boers.
I'm so sorry, I forgot.
The double Dutch people were in.
YouTube is good on YouTube.
You
send an invitation.
In the Boers had a majority of people, right? So they ran the country essentially. The English of South Africa were slightly in a minority. So it's a bit like here today, you know, they were the minority party, if you like. But the Boers were really quite extraordinary in one way. I mean, in the Boer War, they actually won, and they made themselves by 1948 they were the major sort of ruler of the country, basically. But they were sort of very, I don't know how to put it, well, boring, really. Excuse the pun.
Well, that's fine. But yeah, I've heard that they were extremely racist even to white British people.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, sure, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. But the next headline is from The Guardian. A wake-up call as UK hits highest ever temperature. And then they have pictures of some fires that happened.
Well, then they get into the whole climate change thing, don't they? Which is, you know, this is climate change doing it, so forth. Actually, do you know that this planet has been hotter than that? Hotter than that. They used to, in the 15th century, there was something called Mediterranean heat. And I think that went up to extraordinary things. It's like the Ice Age in reverse. It was really, 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 very, very, very hot. So you can't actually see, the weather is different from the climate, you know, in many ways. So you can then, it's like the flooding here in 2000. Well, that was.
I wasn't born then.
Was that a one? But no, was that one off or what? It's very difficult to actually sort of think about climate change in terms of all these things are definitely responsible because they are.
Yeah, you know what? Not all of them are, and that's what fuels the climate change deniers.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, you're clearly lying about this one thing. What else are you lying about? And that's how it starts. So yeah, it's not helpful. So that was from The Guardian. The Metro headline. From the Metro headline, 40.3 degrees, burning hot Britain. You're going to see a theme with these headlines.
Well, I mean, in London, apparently, back gardens were set on fire.
Yes, you mentioned that
It's
earlier.
incredible.
What's going on with that?
Well, the fire brigade people said this morning on the radio that we've had more work to do since the Second World War in terms of actually extinguishing fires.
Sorry, say that again?
There's nothing so we've been so active since the Second World War when there were fires being put out left, right, and centre.
Okay.
So they've been stressed to the limit, I would have thought, strained to the limit.
Yeah.
To try and to do things. I mean, Hyde Park, I think, set on fire in parts. I don't know what's going up north, so to speak, because that's a bit colder, isn't it? I mean, the extreme weather in Scotland, for example, was 34. I think they reached that again this time, but they normally would be much colder, wouldn't they? Because they're further north, sort of thing.
Well, I was sitting on the beach yesterday in 39-degree weather, so I was very happy. I didn't sit on the beach much. I spent most of my time in the water, but I had a good day. Spent an hour in the sea. It was very nice.
Well, hopefully you didn't boil in the water, did you?
No, I didn't.
So there was a boiled egg max.
So the next headline is The Sun, as Britain hits record 40.3 degrees. And they have just one word for the headline, hellfire.
Yeah, that's quite a good headline, actually. Typical Sun, of course. Yeah.
It is typical of The Sun, yeah. We have got more headlines. From the Daily Mirror, the hottest day in history, 40-degree, Britain's burning. Wildfires sweep the UK is in record heat. Homes wrecked as nation swelters. That's the headline from the Mirror today. Again, literally every single headline is talking about the temperature. From the Daily Telegraph, Britain ignites as temperatures hit a record-breaking 40-degree this breaks the 40-degree barrier for the first time ever from the Daily Telegraph. And we have here from the Daily Star, which I'm not really a fan of. I don't think you are either.
Oh, I think the Daily Star, of all the red tops, I think it's probably the best one. But they're all bloody crap, really. I mean, you know.
Well, they're all
They're based on titillation and stoking up fears and all kinds of terrible things. The day that Mr. Murdoch descended on Britain was a bloody, very black day, in my opinion. These papers are awful, including the Times. Well, that's not so bad. But the red tops are really ridiculous.
Sorry. Britain, from the Daily Star, Britain roasts very, very slow march of the zombies. That's the headline.
That's us.
That's us, apparently. Okay. That's me this morning, yeah.
Yeah, zombie.
Boiling Brits sleep deprived. Now, yes, I was certainly sleep deprived on Monday night. That was the hottest night in record ever. It didn't drop below 22 degrees where I lived. But the thing that really annoyed me the other night was during this heat wave, during the night, the hottest night ever, I couldn't turn the fan on. Do you know why? Because that night, we happened to have an 8-hour-long power cut.
Oh, really?
So I think it affected like 700 houses where I live. Near around the area I live, there was an underground fault with the electrics, and it cut power to 700 houses. And we were the last ones to come on, and the power cut lasted 8 hours, and we didn't have any fans. We couldn't do anything. I tried to get to sleep to pass the time, and I couldn't do that because it was 24 when I tried to get to sleep, and it didn't drop below 22. So, yeah, the other night was certainly sleep deprived.
Well, I got a fan up in my attic. You know, attics are usually hot in the summer and cold in the winter,
Yeah.
to excess, basically. And this fan is just wonderful because I put it up to sort of 2, and it really, really, really just the breeze hitting me over, you know, is just fantastic. I mean, really. The trouble is that all the pages I'm writing for my book go scattering all over the bloody place. You know? But it's great because you pour the Velux down, so you get a little bit of wind coming in from that.
Do you say you're writing a book?
Yeah.
Your memoirs, right?
Yeah.
When do you think they'll be finished?
I'm hoping to do it by Christmas.
By Christmas.
Trouble is that life gets always in the way. John Lennon famous phrase. Life is what happens when you're making plans to do other things. So there's all kinds of distraction that, you know, oh, my wife says, oh, come help me out with the shopping, will you? Oh, God, all right. Yeah. Another page not done that morning.
Do you usually go out with your wife with the shopping?
No, well, she asked me to because she's had a wrist recently, so she can't.
Oh,
really,
yeah,
yeah.
I'd be saying.
But then, you know, she goes into Waitrose and I go into the pub next door, and the day deteriorates from there on. Waiting for her.
Well, I always go to this. Whenever my mum goes shopping, I always go with her because for the past 2 years since COVID started, I've been going to the shops every time with her because I've been keeping track of all the prices of things, and they say inflation is 10%. It's not.
It's much more than that.
It really isn't.
Well, my wife used to go to Aldi's because she said it was about at least 40% cheaper than Waitrose.
Yeah, we go to Lidl's.
Tesco's is much cheaper. But now she says even Tesco's and Lidl's and Aldi's are just catching up, and they're all very high inflation. We went to when Waitrose, half the shelves were bloody empty. You know.
Yeah, you know what? All the Sainsbury's in Brighton were just pretty much empty. They have been for the last week. There's just nothing around in the shops. I'm like, it's getting quite bad actually.
Well, they haven't got the petrol to get the lorries to actually supply them, haven't they?
Yeah. You know what annoyed me actually? I had something that was planned to come through the post yesterday, and it was for Mirador, but it said that it would be here tomorrow, which is today, so it's going to arrive today. But it was delays due to the heat. I'm like, what do you mean delays due to the heat? I don't know what's going on, but there were delays due to the heat for Amazon. So this is from the Times. Record high of 40.3 degrees Celsius spark wildfires in Britain. And then also Truss closing in on Mordaunt. Finally, we have something else in the headlines. Still talking about the record heat as the main headline, but Truss closing in on Mordaunt. So Kemi Badenoch went out of the race yesterday, unfortunately. So there is no good people left in the race for Conservative Prime Minister.
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
But you're very right wing, what do you mean?
Yes.
And she's black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was the only good one, though.
Oh, I am very surprised to hear. I'm very pleased and surprised to hear it.
It's a shame she's gone out. She was my favourite, although Steve Baker was quite good. It was between those two. As long as
I
it was
can't
one of
believe that I'm
those.
hearing my ears here. I'm hearing this. First of all, he's a liberal person.
No, he's a libertarian, not a liberal.
Oh, well, he's a liberal, liberal inclination. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Right, and then Kemi is a black person, but you are a sort of, as I keep saying, right of Genghis Khan. Never mind anything else, and that means really that you are ditching your right-wing views and saying these two people are wonderful. Now, what's
Yeah, well, those, in my opinion, were the only two people who could think for themselves out of all the candidates. Those were the only two that could have a thought of their own that wasn't pre-planned by the media for them or the party machine. So I thought, they're sort of lesser known backbenchers. I'm trying to think of the word now. Not anti-establishment. Sorry, my phone's cutting off. God, I can't think of the word now. Oh, that's really annoyed me. Anyway, we'll skip that. But yeah, no, there's no one in the Conservative Party worth voting for in the front runners, and I won't be voting for the Conservative Party next year because honestly, they're too liberal. Seriously, I can't be bothered with them. But that was the headline from the Times. Moving on to the Daily Express. Britain's burning in 40.3 degrees heat. Guys, did you know it was hot yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear it was hot? It was warm yesterday. They have another headline. Surging trust. You can trust me to be bold and cut bills. Okay. You can trust me. Hilarious. Okay. Play on words there because of her name. From the Daily Mail. Hottest day ever. Also, they have another headline. Truss allies warn no dirty backroom deals. Okay. Well, I don't believe that, but maybe it's true.
Well, I mean, that's if you've seen the things on television, you can see how childish it all is. They're all saying silly things about one another. And they're getting a bit worried. Sunak is getting a bit worried because this woman is closing in on. X is closing in. And then Liz Truss keeps changing her mind whether she's a Liberal or a Brexiteer or a Remainer.
Yeah.
And then she sort of confuses everybody.
Well,
no, actually, this Penny Mordaunt person is losing her pace, I think, because...
Well, she can't even define what a woman is. Seriously.
Well,
she was asked the question, what is a woman? A woman is anyone who feels like they're a woman.
That's self-identification.
Yeah, I know.
Self-identification. What it is, self-identification is where a woman says whatever she says that she's a woman, that's it.
Yeah.
But then she said, Morgan said, that there are some things that the women can't, do. For example, they can't have an abortion, sort of thing, or they can't, go into the men's loos or that kind of thing, and so, all kinds of things. So it's a very, very, very complex issue, that transgender thing. Very, very difficult. And I think probably self-identification, saying I am a woman, escapes all kinds of, problems.
Well, here's the thing about that self-ID, which is another one issue, is if a woman has self-ID, so a biological woman says she's a man, for example, and she has to go to the doctors, or she's in some sort of injury, she goes to the doctors, they give her the medication, they look at her ID, or his ID, and say, oh, this person on their ID is a man. So they give the drugs, which is enough for a man, which can actually lead to overdoses and has happened in the past. So that is a concern of giving the wrong dose of medication, because there is a biological difference between men and women, despite what people think. I don't really get it. But she can't define what a woman is, and I don't want Rishi Sunak or Penny Mordaunt as Prime Minister, because they're both part of the World Economic Forum, so they can go do one, in my opinion.
What's wrong with the World Economic Forum?
They're a bunch of globalist elites who want to take over the world.
Really?
Yes.
Now, who does that consist of then?
Well, the leader, Klaus Schwab. Maybe I should do like a whole in-depth episode on this. That'd be a good idea.
The World Economic Forum.
Yeah, they're a bunch of globalist elites who want to have it their way. They are the top 1%, and they've all grouped together to all have the same policies, basically, and trying to control big tech, trying to control the governments, and it seems like their plan is going the way they want it for now. But maybe I'll do a whole episode on what is the World Economic Forum and why is it bad. That'd be a good idea. So from the Financial Times, Financial Times is always so small, I have to look at it properly. Burning Britain, houses blaze in record heat. And then the second one of the other headlines is, do you want to read this? I'm struggling with that.
Bailey signals half-a-point rate price in battle to reining a surge in prices. Oh, God almighty.
What's that say? Sorry, say that one more time.
He's put up the interest rates by half a point.
By half a point? Wow. So cool.
He's come under a lot of flack because of his management of interest rates. Because you've got to remember that there's been 2 decades of low inflation and very low interest rates, which has been very good for young people trying to get mortgages. And that's now gone out the window. And he won't simply put up the interest rates. The only tool you've got to curb inflation at the moment are interest rates. And if you don't actually whack them on, then nothing happens. But he doesn't seem to want to do that for some reason. Well, I can understand that, because it is very, very difficult for people. People not being able to get mortgages now because they're so expensive, and also all other kinds of things like going up, food going up, energy prices. God Almighty, they're going through the roof.
I want to have a family. I want to have kids. I want to have a house, but that's really not. I mean, the house part especially is really not looking like it's going to happen anytime soon, which is very concerning for me, because I want to raise a family, I want to have a house, I want to have a decent job, but with the prices of houses, it looks like I'm going to be renting for a very long time, and so will many other people that are my age now.
Yeah, well, I want to understand both.
Right.
I was able for various reasons to give all my 3 daughters houses.
They're very lucky.
Yeah, they are very lucky. It used to be the bank of mum and dad, but my wife died, so it was the bank of dad. We were able to do it, which is very good. So my friends said, you must be crazy. You could have made a fortune out of hiring your house in London, in London. Why did you give all this money to your daughter's farm in California? My feeling was, look, I've always made enough money to do exactly what I want and go anywhere I want. Why shouldn't I give it to them now and save until I die and save huge amounts in inheritance tax? And that's the way I did it. That doesn't mean I deserve a sainthood. It just is what I did, what I felt like I should do. Why not? If you can do it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well,
but I mean, I appreciate an awful lot of
certainly
people are not in position to do that.
Well, I certainly hope I can be in a position to do that with my kids.
Yeah.
But I certainly won't be inheriting a house because, I mean, back in the olden days when you were my age, the average age to have bought a house was mid-20s.
Yeah.
Now it's late 30s, and by the time I'm in my late 30s, it's probably going to be risen to early 40s, mid 40s. So
each time they won't give you a mortgage because you won't have long enough to pay it off.
I won't have long enough to live.
You can get mortgages now.
They're talking about a 100-year mortgage.
No, you can get 85 years, I think.
Yeah, so you can hand on your debt to your children because that's a great idea.
Yeah, because you're not going to live for 100 years.
No.
No, probably not.
Well, I'm certainly not.
No, I know that Lloyd's, when they were so cheap.
Well, your chances of living to 100 is fairly decent, aren't they?
Well, my mother did.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're relatively healthy. I mean, you never drank. Well, you did drink. You never smoked, did you?
Never smoked, no. It's all in the genes, you see.
It's all in the genes.
My mother, there's a lot in this genes business. My mother lived to be 100. My Uncle Bill, her brother, lived to be 101. Uncle George lived to be 98. Aunt Nora, the baby of the family, was 94 when she went to my mother's 100th birthday party. And she sent me out on a thing. She sent me out to buy 20 cigarettes, which she smoked. And she said, look, I like a drink. I drink gin and lemonade and go easy on the lemonade. And she had 7 of those. And she lived to be 104, for God's sake. No, sorry, 102. That's it.
My great-granddad smoked for 81 years, and he died at the age of 92, not that long ago, a couple months ago now. But he never got cancer. He got severe COPD, but he never got cancer from the smoking. He smoked for 81 years. But, I mean, he had towards the end, it really wasn't good for him for smoking all those years. He was really struggling, and that's eventually what killed him. He couldn't breathe. But yeah, smoking, not a great thing. If you can, you should quit, I think. I'm not going to take it up. I'm not going to start smoking.
I never even started, and I can't tell you why. I just don't know. I just didn't fancy it.
Well, I'm not going to start smoking because I already have asthma.
Oh, yeah.
So I have had cigarettes before, and it messes up my asthma bad.
Yeah, my wife has terrible troubles with asthma.
Yeah.
But you have blow into one of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she just below 250, so which is the 200 is the danger line, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she said, do you want to have a go at this? And I said, yeah, okay. So I blew in, I was 600, and it went right off the scale, you know. Does that mean
I haven't done that in ages. Last time I remember, I was about 400.
That means I've got very good lungs. And I can bellow out. I could be Johnny Halliday. I could make a great noise.
Mm.
What is it? What does that actually measure? In fact, the little
lung capacity.
What do you mean?
Lung capacity, like how much oxygen you can take in. Because as an asthmatic person, I can't take in as much oxygen as the next person, which is why I was exempt from wearing masks.
Right.
Because obviously covering your face does actually impede you from taking in full breaths. That's why asthmatics are exempt.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. So see, when I said to my doctor, Valerie, she said, I said, what is this thing about the genes? And she said, well, who do you look like? I said, I'm a spitting image of my mother. She said, well, there you are. You know, you are going to live a long time. You know, touch wood. But then again, you've got the problem if you live a long time with the quality of life, isn't it? There's no point living a long
Yeah.
time if you've got a lousy quality of life. Because
Yeah.
all your friends will be dying off, you know. There's nobody to play bridge with. In front of you.
Well, I was talking to someone recently who's quite old, and that the person was saying that it does get quite lonely because all your friends are gone, or your family starts going. You don't have your parents anymore. It's just, I can't imagine. It seems horrible growing old. Sorry to be morbid, but yeah. I mean, as long as you have a good quality of life, then.
Well, I like being old at the moment.
You like being old?
Yeah.
Because you get to complain about things and no one says anything.
Well, no, I haven't got like somebody half my age telling me what to do. I can actually, well, you need two things if you're old. One, you need your health to be holding up. And secondly, like you need to be financially secure. I tick both boxes at the moment, so you know, I can actually, me and my wife, we can just go off and do this when we want to, and not do if we don't want to. And it's really quite nice. It's quite a nice life. But then again, you know, as I say, you've got to tick the two boxes, really.
Well, we're going to have a little break. We're going to play a video. We're going to play a clip. We're going to find one. What do we have? The 1609 Battle _ Fina. I'm not sure what this is. Oh, yes, we tried playing this and it didn't work last time. So I'm going to play it today, and hopefully this works. It just wouldn't play at all last time. Oh, there we go. All right.
My name is Alan Judd, and I'm here to introduce you to the historic market town of Battle. Battle, so named because it was the site of the famous Battle of Hastings in 1066, although it's not in Hastings. We are in fact 6 miles inland from Hastings. And what better place to start to explain the history of what happened here and why than the Battle Museum of Local History, where first of all we'll look at some of the weaponry that was used. Now, one of the most interesting exhibits in the museum, found at the site of the battle, is this axe head, verified as the kind of axe head that was certainly in use at the time. And this is what the axe head would have looked like at the time. This replica was made with the exact same techniques as would have been used in 1066. And this axe would have been used to kill men, not only men, I'm afraid horses too. The battle and the events leading up to it are very well known, and they are portrayed in the famous Bayeux tapestry, a copy of part of which is on display in the museum. The Bayeux tapestry is not the only tapestry that tells us about the Battle of Hastings, and indeed its aftermath. A much more modern one was produced recently by local volunteers and visitors to the town. That tells us about the foundation of the town from after the battle in October 1066 to the founding of St Mary's Church in 1115. This is Natasha Williams, English Heritage's property manager for properties in Sussex. She's going to tell us how the battle came to be fought here and what happened. Natasha, why here? Why was the battle fought here? Why do we have the abbey here?
The story starts with Edward the Confessor, who was king at the start of 1066. He died in January and he didn't have an heir, so it left a vacuum for the Kingdom of England. Multiple contenders who wanted the throne. This went on for pretty much the whole year and then culminated in October with the Battle of Hastings. This is what we spent as the battlefield now. Now you've got to remember, at the time there were no buildings here. The landscape has changed a lot and it would have been over this whole area. The daffodils would not have been here. It wouldn't have been this bright sunny day as obviously it was in October. So the landscape would have changed quite dramatically.
So can you tell us exactly what happened and where?
So we're now standing on what is known as Senlac Hill. This is the site of the battle, and as you can see, the slope here is very important to what happened. You can see a little bit of a slope now, but you just need to imagine it went a lot further up because they levelled off the hilltop when they built the abbey. So this is the spot that Harold chose to stand against William. William was coming from the coast and Harold knew that he would be making his way to London. So he picked out this hillside because it was the perfect place to defend and William had to come past it. He effectively surprised William because William didn't expect Harold to be here quite this quickly. So at the top of the hill, Harold formed his shield wall and all he had to do was hold that shield wall until William arrived and the battle continued.
Can you tell us a little more about the shield wall, what exactly it was and how it happened?
Saxon shield wall was a traditional Saxon tactic for warfare. They'd used it numerous times before and it was generally very successful. They would pick their battleground, so the top of the hilltop, the Saxon army would have spread out probably about a mile long, all standing with their shields in front of them, and they formed a very formidable defence. All they had to do was stay at the top of that hill. William was at the bottom. His challenge was making his way up the hill, bearing in mind they had all their armour on, they were carrying extremely heavy weapons. It was enough of a feat just to make it to the top, let alone try and fight anyone with that wall in front of you.
Natasha, can you describe to us what happened that day in October 1066 on this spot?
You have to use your imagination. So 14th of October 1066, you had Harold's Saxon army at the top of the hill and you had the Norman army at the bottom. Saxons with their shield wall, the Normans raring to go to come up, but it was a bit of a standstill. Etiquette of battle, who would go first? Now, one of William's jesters, a gentleman named Taillefer, rode his horse in the middle of the two lines, shouting songs, mocking the Saxons, a bit of warfare cries beforehand, and one of the Saxon army archers got a bit excited and shot him, which was effectively the start of the battle. The Normans rushed forwards. All the Saxons had to do was stand firm with their shield wall, and the Normans rushed up the hill but couldn't get anywhere. And this happened a couple of times before William realised they had to change their tactics. He came up with a plan. He got a couple of his troops to rush forwards, but then retreat, acting fearful. He did this a couple of times until the Saxons got excited. They thought that they were winning, they'd made a breakthrough. The Norman army was retreating, and they followed them down the hill, effectively breaking the shield wall. And this was the turning point for William. He was able to now come round the back of them and attack them from multiple sides. Once the shield wall had been broken, the Norman army were more powerful, they had more improved weaponry, and they hadn't just fought a battle up in York like the Saxons had. So it was only a matter of time before the battle was decided.
we can say then that it all ended here. Harold was killed. We'd have been surrounded by blood and gore and bodies and goodness knows what else at this spot.
Yes, well, should we go have a look? This is said to be the spot where Harold was killed. The high altar of the abbey was placed here specifically to commemorate that. Now, when he was killed, his body was so badly mutilated that they had to bring in his wife to identify it later on. And William, he was very religious, so he wanted to build something on the site to give penance to all the blood that had been shed. Hence the reason that this Benedictine monastery was built on this very site.
And so the town of Battle grew up around the abbey, around this.
Yes, yeah, where the Benedictine monks couldn't sustain themselves, they needed craftspeople, skilled labourers to come and help them establish a community here, which is how the town grew up around the abbey. And they even built the church that you see in the background here as a place for the townspeople to worship.
And we'll be going into that church in a later instalment.
Every year, on the weekend nearest the 14th of October, English Heritage holds a reenactment of the Battle of Hastings here at site. It involves reenactors from not only England but Europe as well. We get people coming over from Normandy, and it attracts thousands of visitors from all over the world who come specifically to see the reenactment. It's a great event. Not only is there the battle, there's weaponry demonstrations and living history, so you get to see people as they were in 1066.
I did the same thing as Keith does. I forgot to unmute. Hello, welcome back to Mirador. That was a short clip of the Battle of Hastings.
Very interesting, actually.
Yeah, it is. Did you find anything in the back page of the Financial Times that was
Couple of very
interesting?
people, yeah. Well, I should be talking about it later, but yeah, there's a very interesting thing. IMF fears recession under Russian gas ban. Now, Russia is actually holding its gas, okay? Russian gas, let's say what it says, a Russian gas embargo leads to severe recessions in Eastern Europe and Italy if countries around the world hold their own scarce supplies. The IMF warned yesterday in an attempt to encourage solidarity between nations. Now, Russia will not be actually holding its gas to actually get the price up, particularly. It's holding it so that it dominates the rest of the world. That's a very good thing. Now, if you go down to the bottom of the page, there's another article that says German companies seek energy rationing priority. Apparently, Germany is prepared to do rationing, but they can't make up their mind whether it should apply to consumers or ordinary people or companies. So there you are. It's quite weird. Obviously, that fear of a ban has got to Germany. Well, 2/3 of after they totally abandoned nuclear, they became very dependent on Russian gas because 2/3 of their energy was gas from Russia. That has stopped a little bit now because they Germany won't allow the second pipeline to go through. But even so, it's a very, very messy situation.
The Nord Stream 2.
Yeah, what's it?
It was the Nord Stream 2.
Nord Stream 2, yeah. So there you are. That's really quite worrying. What else is there?
Well, whilst you're looking for another one, or looking for the one you found earlier, I have one here from Sky News. Netflix loses almost 1 million subscribers as cost of living crisis takes a toll on budgets. Now, I don't think this is entirely true of just the rise in prices. Netflix loses almost 1 million subscribers what one of the reasons there was a big drop in subscribers for Netflix was because I don't know if you've heard about this, but Netflix released a film called Cuties. Have you ever heard of this?
A film called what?
A film called Cuties.
No.
Well, Netflix released a film that you could just watch on Netflix. It was essentially, I mean, I hate to say it, but it was essentially child porn.
Really?
Yeah. The premise of the show was a bunch of young girls in a twerking dance competition. And now when I say young, I mean like 10, 12. I think the youngest cast member was 8 in the crew. And that was it was a horrific film, and they lost a lot of subscribers for that. So I don't think it is just that. Plus, Netflix is quite woke, and they don't allow certain people on their site.
Well, hang on a sec. I don't have Netflix, so I don't really know what Netflix is. But it sounds to me like all these things, when they're actually losing clients, then they go to extremes, and they obviously think that they must sort of pepper up their mix or pepper up their offer with a little bit of porn or a little bit of sort of neo-porn.
Yeah, well, yes, I get that, but this was children, which is a little bit different.
Well, they should be kept at home. They should be kept away from it, shouldn't they? That's up to the parents, isn't it?
No. Oh, well, yes.
Well,
I'm
look, I mean,
confused.
all kids have got these gadgets now, haven't they? They can actually access porn all over the flipping place, and there's not much parents can do about it. I agree with you, but there must be some way they can actually regulate what their kids are looking at. I don't know.
No, the issue was Netflix made a movie that was child porn.
Right.
That was the issue, because that was what Netflix did. Netflix made a show
because they were losing customers.
No, they made the show and then they lost the customers.
Oh, because of that.
Yes.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yes, that is a good thing.
Yeah.
But Sky News are saying it's because of the cost of living crisis. But really, I think a lot of it has to do with their policies on, and the people they won't allow on their show, and the Cuties show, which was a big one, which caused a lot of uproar. People started calling Netflix Nonceflix, which was quite funny, actually. But yeah, I mean, with that show Cuties, they auditioned 700 girls.
Oh,
Every audition is filmed, right? In the audition, you have to play the part of the role. They have videos of 700 different girls, twerking below the ages of 18. That's a little bit suspicious. Where are those tapes? Because it's in Hollywood somewhere. But yep, that's why Netflix lost a lot of subscribers recently.
Oh, look! This is what I really like. This crypto margin shake up. See, I kept told some guys in Lewis, they're saying that we're investing in crypto. I said, don't.
Yeah, no, I almost invested in crypto.
Yeah, I told you not to, didn't I?
Well, I had a friend who invested in crypto and has lost
Yeah,
quite a lot of money. He invested like 10 grand
I
or
told
something.
you, see, currency is made on assigning a value to it. So gold standard was, a sign. So the dollar, for example, 7 ounces of gold made $1 sort of thing. But then back in 15th century, the currency was daffodils, can you understand? Or maybe it was tulips, I can't remember. The tulips, yeah. Actually,
It used to be salt before that.
Yeah. So actually, crypto has no value, essentially. So its value is depending on people who buy it, invest in it. So it's really quite mad. I mean, it's a nonsense sort of investment, really.
Yeah. Well, I have an article here from the Argus, which is the Argus Sussex only?
No, it's white. I think so. Yeah. I used to write a column for the Argus
Oh, did you?
about companies. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They have a headline here: Brighton's Green Council has a poor environmental record.
Oh yes.
Shocking.
And they're greens. They're greens.
They are Greens, yeah.
That really.
They're the only Green seat in the entire country as well.
The only council. There's a minority council. It's a minority council.
Yeah, well,
The
they're
Greens
they're the only Green MP seat.
You would think that of all people, the Greens would be able to get a recycling. Instead, they got a garbage strike. Can you believe it? And it's absolutely tatty. It's all really tatty, as you know, and as you told me.
Yeah.
There's full of bloody cokeheads walking about and all the rest of it, and people are
my
frightened to go there now.
You know what I saw the other
Yeah.
day on my way to work? Because I have to go through Brighton. I stop off at Sainsbury's to get myself a meal deal usually. But I stopped off at Sainsbury's and there was this crackhead in there who I've seen many times before. He's quite a prolific one. I've met him a few times before. When I was at college, he screamed at me and my friends because we were standing in front of a bush.
Right.
He screamed at us and told us to fuck. He was like, "Fuck off!" Like screamed at us.
What's the bush?
A bush.
All right.
Because that's where he happened to be hiding his drugs,
All right.
and we would happen to be standing in front of that bush. And then the second time I had an interaction with this specific guy, he cornered me and was like, "Give me money. I'm homeless. You can't give me money." I'm like, "I don't carry cash," knowing full well I carry cash everywhere I go.
But you see, that's another point. Again, it goes round and round. The number of homeless on the streets in Brighton is enormous.
You know, I'm scared to keep carrying cash. I only use cash pretty much exclusively, but I am getting scared. I'm taking 20 quid out a day as my daily allowance because I'm worried to carry more than that on me.
You see, the whole thing about giving people on the street money is very complex. I mean, when you see somebody underneath an ATM begging for money.
Yeah, they always sit under the ATMs as well.
Yeah. But the thing about it is that one of them, people like, normal people think, well, why should I give it to them? They'd only spend it on drugs or booze.
Yeah.
And if
And
a guy sits underneath an ATM with a can of lager in his hands, I wouldn't give him money. What's the point?
You know what's the funniest thing about living in a first world country with homeless people?
Yeah.
I've seen many. Actually, I've seen quite a few. I see in Brighton obese homeless people, fat homeless people.
Yeah.
That's how great of a country we live in, that we have fat homeless people.
Well, obesity epidemic is very widespread. I've never quite understood whether it's just diet, because poor people can't afford it. But middle class people,
you know what?
now.
I actually can explain this to you quite well. Poor people specifically get quite fat
because of the cheap food, junk food. Yeah.
And so you were well off, right? You could afford to take your family for holidays, right?
Yeah.
Well-off people can do that as a treat. And the thing is, growing up poor, the treat was never going on holiday. It was, we'll go to McDonald's on a Saturday, maybe on a weekend. Yeah. We'll go to McDonald's as our treat. So that is the treat because it's affordable, and that's why poor people get fat because the treat is going to somewhere like McDonald's.
Well, first of all, I grew up very poor, much poorer than you were.
Yeah.
In the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing about people, being on the street is very, very complicated. For example, in Lewes, there are 8 regulars. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And 4 of them have got houses in Lamport. Okay? But they're still there. They're still, but that is Lewes, which is quite a well-off town, as you know. And they seem to know. Well, I always give money to the buskers. I think that's really nice because
they're actually doing something.
They're actually doing something. But my wife now, she tells me that some people get very fat for medical conditions. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
Yeah, so thyroid conditions.
Yeah, other things. But is it basically, essentially, you think it's diet, do you?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, diet is basically junk food because they haven't got money to buy.
and things like this.
Yeah.
Things
Fizzy
like
drinks, yeah.
fizzy drinks, carbonated drinks, Coca-Cola, sugar water, basically. But the thing is, these are my absolute favorite drink,
It's
which is really annoying.
It's really quite interesting because not so long ago, I was sort of overweight, and when I got involved in sort of colonoscopies and gastroscopies because I was rather overweight for my thingamabob, and they said, well, you know, how did you lose so much weight? And I said, on March 23rd, I stopped drinking alcohol. And they said, well, you're anemic as well. I said, so that could have been immediate weight loss. I said, it wasn't immediate. For March 23rd, I didn't have a drink for 10 months. Right? I didn't have an alcoholic drink for 10 months.
10 months.
Then I had another 3 months, and I had another 5, which I didn't. And my friend said to me, well, what did you plan to do all this? I said, no, I just didn't want to have a drink, you know.
Would you rather, so you're drinking again now, but would you rather just drink and enjoy the time you have left, or like go on this strict diet and have a few extra years, maybe 5 extra years, but those 5 extra years are not going to be fun?
No, I'm in fact, I keep telling you, I'm in for 20 years.
Well, no, I'm saying if you go on a strict diet, you can probably get 5 extra years out of your life.
I drink very modestly now these days.
Well, I can't say the same thing. I've just turned 18. Not just, but I just got my ID recently, so I'm
able to go to the boozer.
able to go to get drinks.
Well, sometimes I drink more than I'd like, but
How much would you say you consume, like a week, average?
well, I don't know. I try and keep myself to about 2 pints a day, if that. So that's 14, isn't it? If you take every day, but sometimes, like for example, I like going to the diddley music in the Lewis Arms, and then friends come round, and I always book a table because it gets very crowded. And so you find yourself having 1 pint, then another pint, and buying one for what's it. So you end up with drinking about 4 or 5, which is not a good idea. But you know, I mean, I tell you one thing now. I mean, it might be COVID or something. I don't actually like some of the taste of beer now. I don't find it quite. It might be my anemia, but I can't find it very difficult to finish a pint sometimes. I've got this. I've got this sort of digestion problem, which might be to do with my anemia, and I don't sort of I don't feel like it. I don't want it, you know.
Mm.
So that's one thing. But
like it's.
I mean, I don't criticise people for drinking. Well,
No.
You know, I think obviously not good for your health.
I'm going to criticize people for being alcoholics, but not drinking.
But what is an alcoholic exactly? Well, how do you define an alcoholic?
Someone who's addicted to alcohol.
Yeah, well,
An obese person you can define as someone who's addicted to food.
Yeah.
Because you can get food addictions, which is very common now, actually, and is really sort of.
But what is addicted to alcohol? How much would you say? When you're drinking all day long or something?
Well, I have family who were alcoholics.
So they're drinking
She
all the
would
time.
be, she would, like my nan used to be an alcoholic, and she used to hide drinks under the sofa in the cupboards, so she could have a drink whenever, and she would drink a hell of a lot. And it got to the point where she I can't remember, she had a stroke or something.
Yeah.
Which was caused by stress and alcohol. And
But listen,
that's when she went to AA.
There's a thing here that people forget. I drink weak beer. It's 4%. I drink pale ale, right?
Right.
4% in a whole pint of water.
Right.
Yeah. If you drink a glass of wine, which has not got volume.
Which is
right?
probably what, 250 mils?
No, it's probably 12% alcohol
Yeah.
in a small glass. So your alcohol content, if you like, is much bigger by drinking an amount of wine or a glass of whiskey than it is drinking a pint of.
Oh, certainly a glass of whiskey. Yeah.
And a pint of small alcohol content.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I quite enjoy whiskey as well.
Well, whiskey, the only time I really enjoyed whiskey was when I went to the Isle of Jura.
You know, one time actually, not that long ago, a couple of months ago, for a leaving party for a family member, I decided I was going to see how much my limit was for drinks.
Yeah.
And in one night, I had a litre bottle of Southern Comfort.
Yeah.
And I drank the entire
Oh my God.
litre of whiskey in one night.
Oh God! Oh, you've got a problem. I tell you that there were two occasions when I did drink a lot. One was when I was in Cambodia, and I was drinking gin.
Right.
The reason was there was quinine. Gin in the tonic. I don't know if it's in the tonic or the gin. Quinine. And I was the only one of the correspondents that didn't get dengue fever or malaria. And the other time I drank quite a lot of whiskey was when I went to Jura, where they've got these wonderful distilleries. Jura, it's very famous for malt whiskey.
Yeah.
And I went round all three of them when we were having these tasters, But unlike tasters, did you ever see the film Peter Sellers with There's a Girl in My Soup? It was a wine specialist.
What?
And he's going around tasting the wine, and he spits it out after he's tasted it. That's what you do. Wine taster spits it out. And his girlfriend, who was that wonderful, can't remember her name now, she went round with him, but she didn't spit it out. So
She got mega drunk.
Yeah.
That's quite funny.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to cut this conversation here, but we're going to end the show. We're going to have a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 9:45 for the second show. So we'll see you back in 10 minutes. Thank you very much for watching Meridor Television, and you will be watching Breaking an Egg later, and we will have a guest. Is it in person?
John,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So who's the guest, by the way?
John May,
John May.
who's a denizen of the Lewis.
So we'll be having a conversation with John May in probably half an hour or so.
11 o'clock apparently.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. That's what I asked him to come earlier, but he doesn't like getting up early.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for watching, and tune in later for John May. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Right.
Thank you and goodbye.
Right.